Well, I might be in London, but I still know how to get a bit of wood. Let's go down the garden and have ourselves a bit of a chat. Hello, Johnny London here, once again. Now, I've got something a little bit different for you today. Before everyone starts saying I'm scratching around and scraping the bottom of the barrel for ideas, because I don't actually have a narrowboat anymore. But this is a video that I wanted to make for a while, and probably realistically, I probably couldn't really make it definitively until sort of round about now. Because of course today I'm going to take you through exactly how much my narrowboat cost me in total. So that's including the purchasing of the hull, all the work that I did to it, all the fittings and fixtures and bits and pieces that I had to buy, and just the whole total thing. So if you want to think, you know, if you imagine going out to get a narrowboat now and you want to do the same thing, this should give you a pretty good idea of how much it's all cost. Now, I've got my laptop here, which does have a spreadsheet, and fortunately I've kept a spreadsheet of all my expenses as I've gone along right from day one, so I have got all the information to hand. Now, I'm not going to include anything about diesel and petrol and consumables, coal and all that. It's not about how much it costs to live each year. There are also a few grey items as well, such as stuff that I bought that I didn't use, and stuff that I bought to replace stuff that I had already bought. None of those things I'm going to cost in. It's just going to be the cost of what happens if you buy a new hull and then you fit it out. So anybody who wants to follow in my footsteps, as it were, well, you'll have a good idea of what the costs are likely to involve, and also all the types of things that you're going to run into along the way. So I think we'll start with the actual purchase of the hull. Now, I bought a lined editions hull from a place called Lim Marina, or Lim Boats it's called at Lim Marina, something like that. Now, they're still going, and you still can actually buy the equivalent hull. Now, mine was £24,000 for the basic hull, and on top of that I had a goodly amount of extras. I'll just have a look on my notes. Spray foam and battens, £1,500, vents, door lining and various other bits, £5,500. Seems quite a lot, but probably included lots of other things. And additions, £4,500, which included things like the water pump, the plumbing, the batteries, a calorifier, a stainless steel water tank, and all the wiring tails. So if you imagine a steel hull delivered in primer, windows fitted, 10 windows I had, flooring in so much as a structural flooring, not a decorative flooring, 18mm ply throughout with ballast underneath, all the inside spray foamed, battened, lined out in various grades of ply. I think it's like 9mm on the sides and 6mm on the ceiling, something like that. Mushroom vents, 3 bulkheads actually, so that sort of gave the layout to the boat. I also had the bathroom fitted, so there was a bath with a shower over and a sort of that plastic splash proof panel stuff on one wall, so that was sort of up and running, basic but up and running. And the same thing with the toilet, the WC, I had a china pan and the pump out tank, and all that was working, and they provided me with a china basin on a vanity unit as well, so that was, again, you know, fully functional. So I was able to move straight on board. You know, I had the basic sort of necessities. I didn't have stuff like the bed, the platform for the bed wasn't built. I didn't have any kitchen at all, but as I said, all the wiring tails and all the plumbing tails were all in place, so everything was as I'd planned it to be, and so I was all sort of set to go, as it were. I think that's roughly about it, but probably what I'll do in another video is go into more detail about that. Now, there were extras that I specified on top of that. I think it was bilge pumps, anodes, an extra large water tank, better windows, larger calorifier, and various other bits, which came to another £6,650. Anyway, the total that I ended up paying to the boatyard for the boat was £42,650. So you can imagine what I've got for that. I'm there in my grey primer, everything's nice and new, I've got the basic functioning things. Now, I'm very glad that I did have as much as that done, and I probably would have got one or two other things as well, but as I said, we'll go into a bit more detail on all that at a future time. So today I'm going to try and keep to the costings, but just to give you an idea of what I had when I started. Now, I've broken these costings down into a sort of room by room basis, and we can go through that and then total that up and add that to the total that the hull cost me, and then we'll see where we are at the end, won't we? So first room, bathroom, bought very little for that. It was literally a shower curtain, a chrome towel rack, and a shower rail. £40 and 48 pence. It's had very little needed to do to that. WC, various bits and pieces. Again, there wasn't all that much. There's some varnish, a couple of door hooks, a shaver socket, some grout, and a few tiles I had left over from the kitchen, that sort of thing. Didn't cost much at all. £54, marvellous. The kitchen next, well, that's a different story. Obviously, that's always going to be an expensive room wherever you are, because you've got appliances, haven't you? And if you imagine, you've probably all seen my kitchen in previous videos, but obviously I've got the fridge freezer, I've got a dishwasher, a washing machine, all the cabinets, the worktops, the sink, and the oven and the hob, and all the various plumbing bits and pieces that went to make all that up. And there are a lot of annoyingly small things, little valves and bits and traps and pieces and all that sort of thing. So anyway, the bottom line for all of that came in at £2,284. I'm not bothering with the pence at this stage. So obviously, that's a little bit of a hit to the wallet, but to be expected. Now, the saloon, what did I have in there? Not really too much. I suppose the main expense would have been the stove. Now, I've done a video about the stove before, and I think I actually did all the costings for it as well, so we won't get bogged down in all that today. But that was a good few £100. Probably came to about £1,000 really by the time I bought all the tiles and the flue and one thing and another. And I'm just looking on here now, other expensive things. It's just a series of little bits and pieces really, but in any case it came to £1,146. Okay, next room, the bedroom. Didn't have much to do in there really. I built a frame or base for the bed to sit on, for the mattress to sit on, just out of some of that CLS timber and some good sturdy ply, and there were some lights and couple of other little bits and pieces. Came in actually at a total of £242. So we're not looking bad at the moment. This is, anyone watching this is going to be saying, do you know what, I think this is quite a bargain, something I could do, and not too expensive, but it does add up, believe me. Now, I had a room down at the end of the boat, down at the stern, study really, I think we could call that, and or office space, whatever you like. I didn't have much to spend on that. There was quite a bit of woodwork. I had a worktop in there, if you remember, with some structural wood underneath. Again, I used the CLS for that, and I had like a cupboards thing up top and a shelf. I think the cupboard I made out of a Billy bookcase, because I bought 3 of those off someone on eBay for a few quid. So not a great deal to be spent in there. A lot of time actually. That was quite a feat of engineering, getting that all together. It was a long span, and that came to £113. Now, the exterior, this is interesting. There are all kinds of things on here, everything from a bit of sort of cosmetic filler, to thinners to paint. Obviously I spent quite a lot on paint. Masking tape, you've seen me get through a bit of that, haven't you? Definitely. What else have we got here? I'm not going to go through it all. It's just sundry items, it really is. It's you know, primer, bits and pieces, but you know, it all adds up, and that came to £1,043. Now the next category is worryingly vague. It's accessories and boat inventory. Now boat inventory is all the stuff I had to buy basically before I even sort of set foot at the boat. I was prepared. I'd bought all my fenders, ropes, windlasses, waterways, keys. There's a whole raft of bits and pieces that you need to have if you're going onto a new boat, because of course they're not provided. I think the one thing that did come with the boat actually was the tiller, but I remember there wasn't a tiller pin, because I had to buy a tiller pin and I had to drill the hole through the metal of the thing that the tiller pin goes onto. There's a solid bar of metal that's about 1 inch or 1.25 inches thick, something like that, and I had to drill all the way through that, so I can see why they hadn't bothered doing that for me. But anyway, we'll get into that perhaps in another video. So if you imagine, what else have we got here? Mooring chains, even stuff like the pins, a big old mallet to knock them in on occasion, TV aerial, the internet aerial thing. Now this actually includes all the solar panels as well. I didn't do a separate thing for them. I mean, there's various different ways that you can add this up, but you know, this is how I've done it. So all fire extinguishers, and even a brush for the stove, and the thing that I shove down the chimney once a year to unblock it. So it's all basically anything that you can think of to do with boat inventory, accessories, all kinds of odds and ends, never ending. A trolley, I've counted 1 trolley in this, although I got through several, but as I said, I'm imagining this as a costing for doing it once, obviously because I was on there for a long time and things broke and wore out while I was there. I'm not going to count them twice, so just 1 trolley. So it'll come as no surprise when I eventually scroll down to the end of this mighty column. We're in for £2,234 for that lot, but I did get quite a lot of stuff there. That's a big old section. Now the next section, general. Here we've got things like all the 240-volt sockets, because it's stuff that's sort of throughout the boat rather than sort of specifying, you know, each socket to do with the relevant room that it's in. I've just put everything under sort of general. So we've got all the LED lighters. I bought about 30 down lighters which went throughout the boat. What else have we got? All sorts of little bits and pieces, curtains, curtain poles, various bits of cables, all the 12-volt sockets. I put a big load of 12-volt sockets down at the Aldi actually. They're what I used. I put about sort of a dozen of those and gradually sort of fitted them throughout the boat. So it's nice to have the option of the 240 volts or the 12 volts anyway. Locks we've got here. Finials for the curtains, you know, every little bit and piece that you could imagine. Silicone, just stuff that I use to fix things. Deck board, what was that for? That was for the shelves in my tool cupboards. That was really, really good actually, very strong, that stuff. Blinds, couple of blinds, and 4 blinds actually, because I made 2 blinds out of 2 pairs. Won't bother boring you with the details of that, but that's just how it worked out. Ammeters, acrylic undercoat, that little inverter I used to have by the TV, all sorts of bits and pieces there, door seals, and of course the skirting board and the flooring. That was quite a cost. The flooring was about 500 quid's worth. Various other bits and pieces. So if you imagine anything that's sort of spread throughout the boat, that's all under this heading, and that came to £2,669. Now after that we've got central heating, and that was surprisingly complicated in terms of all the little bits and pieces I needed to rig that Webasto up. So I bought all the rads, hung all the rads on the walls, that was nice and easy, and I got all the pipe and the usual bits and pieces. I say the usual, I normally work in copper when I do any plumbing, and I usually like to solder at that, but obviously on a boat you don't do that, so you use speed fit is the common one to use, just plastic pipes that you can you know, just tighten up. And so I bought all that and all the other little bits and pieces, adapter things to connect hose sizes from the Webasto to something, special fuel pipe. The Webasto likes a special kind of gauge of fuel pipe and a special kind of filter and special kind of mounting brackets for it. Everything you could possibly imagine for normal central heating, and then a few bits besides basically, and that little lot came to £1,342. That's not bad. I mean, that is including the Webasto and all the rads and everything, and that includes the chrome radiators that I used in both the bathroom and the WC as well. So that really is the whole lot, and that's, you know, that's fair enough. Then I've got another section of tools that I bought. It's not really mainly tools, it's stuff like cutting lubricant, drill bits, drill sets, cutting discs, caulk, paint brushes, wet and dry, sandpaper. Got more masking tape on here as well. That's everywhere, isn't it, really? And mini rollers, more brushes, wire wheels, all this sort of stuff. That came to £174, so not too much money at all. Now after that I've got a section called services, and I didn't include any of that. That is things I said about BSS inspections and craning out and the pressure wash and the hard standing, because if you think about it, when I was in that boatyard and I was sort of re-blacking, that was doing something that had already been initially done, and it's just routine maintenance, and really is much more to do with the sort of general costs, the general sort of year-to-year costs associated with being on a narrow boat. So I won't count any of that except for one item, which was the gas fitting in the first place, which was £338. So obviously that was a one-off and that should be counted. After that I've got a big thing of replacement items. Batteries, had a few sets of those, and obviously we were a set provided with the boat in the first place, and I think they're the only ones I've counted. They were counted in amongst the initial cost of the hull. Other than that, I've got a few trolleys that bit the dust along the way, and battery terminals, they always seem to break with me for some reason, and a few other little bits and pieces. Air horns, they all got waterlogged and had to be replaced, but yeah, apart from that, that's it. One last little section for you, not used. I've got an aerial pole that I didn't use and an aerial that I didn't use, so I had to rethink about how I was doing that. Few other little bits and pieces, nothing really. Again, that's not counted. So the grand total of all the money I spent on the initial fit out of the boat is £11,345 and 6p. Now if you add the cost of the gas fitting onto that grand total, we come to £11,683 and 93. So all I've got to do now is add that onto the initial cost for the hull, which was 42,600 and something, and I can give you the final cost if you haven't already worked it out yourself. Oh, that's useful. Don't seem to have written it down anywhere. Hang on, I have to do it now, haven't I? So we've got 42,650. Funny enough, when I was looking at the bill for that hull, they seem to have added it up erroneously, and it's 500 quid over. Probably too late for me to do anything about that now, isn't it? Should have checked it more thoroughly at the time. So I'm just going to add on 11,683.93, and that brings the grand total for everything I spent on the boat to get it to a completed state, not counting things that are wore out and general services and whatnot, £54,333.93. Now, just as an interesting little aside to that, I looked on the website for the boat builders before I put my boat up for sale, and I saw that they'd gone up quite a lot actually since my day, and they were around about 62 or 63,000 for the hull. Now, what they've done is they have up-spec'd that sort of lined editions sail away, as they call it, but if you remember at the beginning of this chat, I did say that I added on quite a lot of things. Now, the things that I've added on aren't exactly the same things as they've added on to their improved specifications, but pretty close actually, you know, not all that much in it. It's sort of things that you would want, so that gives you a really good sort of rule of thumb for how much the cost of buying a hull has gone up. I recently checked again when I was researching to make this. I checked again the other day, and they're now £73,000. Give you the exact figure if you want it. That is the exact figure, £73,000 to the penny. So if you were to do that now, you would need £73,000 plus about another 12 grand to build what I built. So I hope if anybody's thinking of this, that'll be of some use to you. Anyway, as you can see, I'm out in the garden. The weather's a bit variable today, and I do intend to add a few more videos as time goes by. Mainly be chats, won't it, obviously, because I haven't got a boat to cruise on now, although I probably will visit the canals at some point. I've had a few other things going on as well, got my fingers in a few other pies, so I'll sort of update you about that as and when, and for now I think we'll leave it at that. So I will say to you, stay safe, stay well, and stay subscribed. See you next time.